I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The New York Attorney General's office has confirmed that it is looking into, quote, a number of issues relating to George Santos. George Santos is the MAGA extremist Republican-elect from New York's 3rd Congressional District. The New York Times did an expose earlier in the week where they revealed essentially everything that George Santos claims about his life appears to be false and completely unsubstantiated. And then later in the week, it was revealed that there was even more lies on top of lies than what the New York Times had previously exposed, as others, including us here at the MeidasTouch Network, began to dig deeper into George Santos's background. So just so you all remember the earlier reporting here on the MeidasTouch Network and in other places, George Santos claims he graduated from Baruch College in 2010. That is apparently completely false. George Santos claimed he worked as an associate asset manager at Citigroup. That is completely false, apparently, and Citigroup didn't even have an asset management division at the time where George Santos claims he worked at Citigroup. George Santos claims he worked at Goldman Sachs. There is no records or evidence that he worked at Goldman Sachs. George Santos claims he led a charity called the Friends of Pets United, but it does not have any records at the IRS as being a tax-exempted charity. And the one event that George Santos was affiliated with, which involved an animal rescue group, the money that Santos raised, according to the animal rescue group, was never actually given to the animal rescue group. We also know that in 2015 and 2017, Santos faced 2 evictions, one in 2015 for owing his landlord $2,250, another one in 2017 owing his landlord $10,000 in rent, and ultimately a $12,200 judgment was rendered against him. And then thereafter, George Santos came out on behalf of property owners, claiming that he owned 13 separate properties as part of his, quote, family holdings, and he was complaining about people who rented at his various properties who refused to pay rent, and he wanted to show solidarity with all the other landlords, but there's absolutely no evidence that he owns any of these properties. There's no evidence that he's registered to vote at the address that he claims to be registered at. He claimed that his employees, four of his employees, were survivors of the Pulse nightclub shooting. That seems to be utterly false. He claims that his mother was the first female executive at a financial institution. There's no record of that. He claims his mother was a survivor in the South Tower of the World Trade Center during the World Trade Center attack during 9/11. There's no evidence that his mother worked at the South Tower on September 11th. On his official campaign biography, he said that his mother survived 9/11 and then passed away years later, tragically. She passed away in 2016, 15 years later. There is a GoFundMe site that Santos started in 2016 to provide the funds for his mother's funeral. Indeed, between 2015 and 16, it seems that Santos used a number of aliases, including his mother's maiden name of DeValder, to create other GoFundMe accounts as well. One of the other things that shockingly seems to be a lie, although I guess with George Santos, nothing is shocking anymore. He claimed that his maternal grandparents were survivors of the Holocaust and they fled from the Ukrainian area to Brazil. That seems to be false. It seems that they were always born in Brazil to begin with. He claims his mother's Jewish. There's no record or evidence or when Forward, a Jewish daily magazine, independent magazine, did a report and looked into the genealogy of Santos's mother. Seems that she was just born in Rio de Janeiro. She posted things when she was alive regarding Jesus, and she appears to be Catholic and doesn't appear to be Jewish. One of the things that Santos had always claimed as well was that he was openly gay, and said that he never had to hide it from the Republican Party, and that the Republican Party embraced it. Yet there's now records that in 2019 he was divorced from his wife, and that for many years it seems that he was married to a woman. Then in his congressional race, when he ran and lost for the same congressional seat in 2020, he listed that he would been making about $50,000 a year at a company called Linkbridge or something like that. However, by the time he ran again in 2022, he now claimed that he had been earning approximately $750,000 a year at a company called DeVolder, which he was the owner of, in addition to $1 million in dividends that he said that he earned. And he loaned himself apparently $700,000 from the $750,000 in income that all of a sudden he came into after all of these evictions and not having any money for all of his life. All of a sudden, this huge amount of money just came into existence. And also, on his congressional disclosures, you have to list if any client pays you more than $5,000 in a year. He claims that what his new company, that all of a sudden he's gotten all this money, like more than $1 million. He claims that they are involved in capital introductions, and they serve as liaisons between investment funds and investors. Yet, according to his congressional disclosures, not a single client has paid him more than $5,000. And if you're earning the type of money he claims to be earning, and evidently you're in a business that requires clients, and you don't list any clients paying you more than $5,000, where is your money coming from? Undoubtedly, that is something that the New York Attorney General is going to be looking into. I hope the New York Attorney General, and frankly, I hope the Department of Justice is also looking into the connections between George Santos and someone named Andrew Intrater. Andrew Intrater is a cousin of a Russian oligarch named Viktor Vexblurg, who is very close with Vladimir Putin. And Andrew Intrater gave huge amounts of money to political action committees that supported George Santos. We have to ask the question, where did the money come from, where George Santos had no money, and all of a sudden he got all of this money, making more than $750,000 a year in salary, plus over $1 million in dividends. Now, George Santos has been one of the most vocal anti-Ukraine government voices out there. He has called Zelensky a totalitarian. He has called Zelensky's presidency a totalitarian regime. Santos traffics in the Russian disinformation daily. No doubt to have someone like George Santos in Congress would make Vladimir Putin very, very happy. And so we need to explore, where did the money come from? Is George Santos not just the catch me if you can Frank Abigail Jr. candidate, but is George Santos also the Manchurian candidate? These are things that the New York Attorney General, the Department of Justice, other investigative bodies need to look into immediately. George Santos, for his part, put out a statement on December 22nd that reads the following: "To the people of New York's 3rd Congressional District, I have my story to tell, and it will be told next week. I want to assure everyone that I will address your questions and that I remain committed to deliver the results I campaigned on: public safety, inflation, education, and more." I suppose "and more" is being Putin's puppet. And let's see what happens at that press conference next week. But if you think for a second this story is going away, you are sadly mistaken, sir. We are going to hold you accountable each and every day, and we are going to make sure the American people know who you are. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. And in addition, check us out at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have great exclusive content you can only get on patreon.com/MeidasTouch, but most importantly, help support this independent media platform grow. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.